Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 72. On tonight's edition of the Daily Drop, we have two articles for you. The first one is from the Express, and it has to do with Prince Andrew, and supposedly he was the most pompous and entitled of the Queen's children. So that should be an interesting article to get into the weeds and see what this royal specialist has to say about that, and maybe it'll add a little bit more to our extreme dislike of Prince Andrew, because what it does is it adds to what we already know. We already know he's a buffoon. We already know that he is involved in all sorts of devious business practices. We already know that he is, at this point, the evidence all points to him being a sex offender. So, I mean, why wouldn't we think that he was pompous and arrogant and full of hubris? And I bet you he treated the staff like shit. I bet a lot of those people have to sign NDAs that work with the royals, but I guarantee he treated the staff like garbage. He thinks he's better than everybody. Obviously, the way he treated these girls, the way he, there was a lot of staff that it was like a train station. What does that mean? What does that even mean? The guy is an absolute buffoon, folks. An absolute moron. And in the second article of the night, we have an article from The Hollywood Reporter, and it's talking about Julie Brown, the journalist from the Miami Herald who blew up Jeffrey Epstein's spot and was basically responsible for him being arrested the second time, and about her and the lady who worked with her to help bring down Jeffrey Epstein. So I think this will be a pretty good article. This is something that'll, it'll add a little bit more background to. I always talk about Julie Brown on the podcast because I think that her work was very consequential in this case and very important, and I think what she did can't be understated, and I don't think we could give her enough credit for what she did. So I think it's crucial that we give her props here on this on the podcast tonight, and we're going to do that by reading this article and getting to know her a little bit better, I guess. So, with that said, if you would like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. The first article we're going to read is the one about Julie Brown. So, the headline: Julie K. Brown and the female collaborator who helped bring down Jeffrey Epstein. Exposing serial sexual abuser Epstein required an intense, concerted effort by a Miami Herald reporter who led in print and Emily Michot who documented victims on video. In early December 2017, Miami Herald reporter Julie K. Brown hopped a flight to Nashville to conduct an on-camera interview with Michelle Licata, a young woman who had been sexually assaulted by financier, pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein when she was 14. Brown's colleague, videographer Emily Michot, would follow a day later on a separate flight. Neither knew what to expect. The interview would mark the first of 4 that accompanied Brown's blockbuster print series dubbed Perversion of Justice, which identified about 80 victims, many of whom had been underage when allegedly sexually abused or assaulted by Epstein, a banker who hobnobbed in Hollywood and media circles with the likes of Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, Donald Trump, and Bill Gates. That's a little bit weird to just to add those people, Kevin Spacey, Bill Gates. Okay, we get it. But how about Glenn Dubin? How about Les Wexner? How about those folks? How about Doug Band? How about these people? Are these people not, we shouldn't be adding those people for some reason? Only these folks? I don't understand. Anyway. Individually, Brown's and Michaud's work might have reached a smaller audience and had a lesser impact, but together, their collaboration became something of a force multiplier, creating a 3-dimensional platform for Epstein's teenage victims to tell their harrowing stories of abuse, with Brown's series driving over 9.5 million uniques and Michaud's videos hitting 850,000 views on the paper's website alone. The videos went viral, says Brown. Emily's videos are still the #1 videos that are being seen on all of the Miami Herald. And that's pretty awesome, right? That's great work. These ladies, what they did and what they accomplished, it cannot be sold short. it is very important, the work that they did. And then to do it the way they did, one attacking in print, and then the other one using visual graphics of video and pictures, is very, very brilliant. The strategy that they used was very, very well played. There's little doubt that the multimedia package provided the tipping point in the demise of the financier pedophile who was arrested on July 6th, charged with sex trafficking of minors in Florida and in New York, and took his own life, allegedly, in August while incarcerated at New York's Metropolitan Correctional Center. Again, folks, not very many people have killed themselves at that place. He is the first one in decades. The whole piece would not have been the same without Emily, says Brown. Just the power of hearing these women's voices and to see, all these years later, how their lives had been forever altered by what had happened to them. And that's really what disturbs me. You know, I sit here sometimes and I'll read these stories, and like I say, I feel completely and utterly disgusting and dirty after reading them. But when I think about these girls, and I do it quite a lot, I think about what they've gone through and what they must feel, and when they close the light off at night and they're alone in bed by themselves or with their significant other, and they're laying there in bed and they're staring at the ceiling, reliving their trauma from these abuses. And again, folks, we're not talking about gray area stuff here where you're like, they're questionable. We're talking about a full-on sex trafficking ring that was dealing human flesh. And a lot of that human flesh were young girls, unfortunately. Brown, who now has a book in the works that will serve as the basis for an Adam McKay limited series at HBO, began working on the Epstein story in early 2017, tracking down a succession of minors identified as Jane Doe in court filings and whose names were redacted from police reports. After months of reporting, she turned to Michot, with whom she had collaborated on a series about rampant abuse at a women's prison in Ocala, Florida. I immediately said, I want you to work on this with me, Brown recounts. Neither woman was fully prepared for that first interview with Licata, who was still wearing braces when she became one of the dozens of known victims of Epstein. Licata's mother remained by her side as she retold her experience. With Michelle pouring out this awful story of abuse, it was really difficult to listen to because you could just see how she still carried so much pain, says Michelle, who worked at the Herald for 25 years. Adds Brown, a Herald employee for 14 years. That's when we knew we had a great story, because Michelle had only been to his home one time, and to think of all the anguish she went through, you can imagine how some of the other women who had been there more than once, what kind of lives they lived. And like I always say on here, folks, what about the unnamed girls? What about the 3 12-year-olds that were supposedly given to Epstein? What about the countless other girls that were supposedly in the orgy with Virginia Roberts and Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew? What about these girls? Do they not have a voice? It makes me sad to think that these girls are just being forgotten about. And I would love for these girls to have their say as well. And maybe they are having their say. Maybe there's some of these Jane Does that haven't been named yet, and I hope they are. But what it would really be sad to me, and it would really be disturbing to me, is that these girls went about being in this orgy and all of that, and nobody knows who they are and what they're going through now, and if they're alone or what they're. It's very sad. It's just very sad to think about, and it's disgusting to think that people would do this to each other. During the ensuing months, the pair interviewed Courtney Wild at a Florida prison where she was serving time for drug charges, and Virginia Roberts, who was famously photographed with Prince Andrew in 2001 while at a party in London, as well as Jenna Lisa Jones, who was 14 when Epstein paid her $200 to give him an erotic massage. Let's go back up there for a second. Virginia Roberts, who was famously photographed with Prince Andrew in 2001 while at a party? No, they weren't at a party. There was 4 people there. It was Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Prince Andrew, and Virginia Roberts. And they were there with one sole purpose, folks. They weren't there to watch TV. They weren't there to, have tea and crumpets. They weren't there to have a drink. They were there because Virginia Roberts was brought there specifically for Prince Andrew to do with as he pleased. In her own words, folks. They've also spoken to two other Epstein victims on camera since the series first published in November of 2018. As a team, they took a yin and yang approach to one of the hardest assignments for a journalist, documenting underage sexual abuse. It's true. It's really disturbing to me. I've covered a lot of things. I've covered, a lot of issues in the Middle East with war, and while it's always disturbed me, it's nothing like this. This just haunts me. Some of these images haunt me to think about these things. It's so disturbing. I tend to be a pretty aggressive reporter, and she's very much the opposite, so it's kind of funny we balance each other out sometimes, says Brown. Or as Michot offers diplomatically, she's focused, and I guess I'm a little bit more laid back. She takes the lead and doesn't give up on something until she gets the answers that she's looking for. And she's like my spirit animal, I guess, because I feel the same way. We're from the same school of thought then, Julie Brown and I. For Brown, 58, the women's stories harkened back to a vulnerability she felt during her own troubled adolescence and offered an opportunity to stand by young women. I come from a single-parent family. I left home when I was 16 and went to live with a bunch of friends, she says. I was falling into self-medicating kind of behaviors. Nothing like drugs, but I could just feel it wasn't a good environment for me. I've lived through some really hard times in my life, so I just sort of feel like you have to give back. Yeah, I feel you there. I understand completely. I come from a place where just about everybody comes from a broken home. Thankfully, I didn't come from a broken home. My parents have been married for a very long time, and I always had a very stable home life. But I come from a place where people did not have that luxury, and I saw the effect it took on people. Given that both Brown and Michot are mothers, Michot, 50, is married with 2 grown sons, and Brown is divorced with an adult daughter and son, they leaned on each other throughout the difficult process. I would wake up in the middle of the night sometimes sweating, thinking about the story, says Brown. Having someone like Emily on your side who gets it was a comfort. Honestly, I don't wake up. I'd be a liar if I said I wake up in the middle of the night sweating like that. But I go to bed thinking about this story, and I wake up thinking about this story. It utterly consumes me. And I cannot stop thinking about the damage that it has done to so many young people's lives, so many people that were just getting their lives started, and even before their lives were even really started. And for them to have everything destroyed and just upturned so quickly and so violently by these sick, disgusting, depraved animals, and to see that they walk, it truly angers me like nothing else. Epstein victims continue to come forward. Ultimately, Brown and Michaud's work offers hope that other predators will be exposed. I know justice will never really be served, but I've heard from sexual abuse victims from all over, and this, to them, was so meaningful because all of them have shared in this feeling of nobody's listening, Brown says. Giving these victims a voice also gave other victims around the world a little bit of a voice. And I agree with that. That's what this is about for all of us independent journalists and us independent content creators and, guerrilla journalists and people that are pushing for answers. I'd say a good majority of people really are just so pissed off about what happened that they had to do something. They were spurned into action, and here they are. And this is exactly what you get when you have a media that does not do their job. If it wasn't for courageous reporters like Julie Brown, these poor girls would have never had a voice. Nobody would have ever listened to them. Thankfully, Julie Brown and Michot were there to step into the void and really provide hard-hitting, impactful journalism that actually moves the dial. Our next article is from The Express, and the headline is, Prince Andrew, most pompous and entitled of Queen's children, says royal expert. And like I said, this is, a little bit of a, kind of a, more of a profile of this numbnut. We already know what Prince Andrew is, and we obviously probably don't even need this, to be honest with you, to know that he's a complete and utter moron. But I figured it's there. We might as well paint it on him. We might as well pile on high. Prince Andrew's questionable character has been highlighted by royal commentator Angela Mollard, who branded him pompous and entitled. Fair? Miss Mollard told the Royals podcast that the Duke of York's planned 60th birthday celebrations for next year have been kiboshed. But I thought there was no foundation to the charges. Isn't that what the statement said? There's no foundation to these charges. Seems like there's some foundation to me. The guy's been completely ostracized. His birthday party's been kiboshed. Mummy kicked him out of the palace. So I think there's a little there. This all follows the major backlash the Queen's son received when he broke his silence over his relationship with convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and the sexual assault allegations against him. Prince Andrew has denied allegations he had any sexual contact with an American woman named Virginia Roberts, who claimed she was ordered to have sex with him at age 17. The fallout of the Duke's BBC interview also reportedly led to the Queen canceling a large celebration planned for his 60th birthday next year. And you'll be going to bed with no dessert, Prince. Prince Andrew's 60th birthday is coming up soon, which would have been a big celebration. The royal experts said the Queen had planned a huge thing. Well, we say the Queen, but Andrew would have insisted. 60 years old, his mom's planning his birthday party still. What does that tell you about him? Prince Andrew, you're a buffoon, you're a moron, you're an idiot. She continued, the nature of Andrew, and all the time that I was reporting in the UK, Andrew was the most pompous, the most entitled of the Queen's children. The one that sort of sat back and played golf. Just the behavior that has been displayed, the conversations around his associations. He's got a questionable character, to say the least. This is a royalist, okay, folks? This is one of a monarch, a historian, who is writing about someone who's a prince of England and saying this about him. So it's adds on to the rest, right? Miss Mollard added, in the same way that he demanded that Eugenie have a broadcast wedding, he would have been seeking his own birthday. Instead, the royals will mark Andrew's February birthday with a small family dinner. Blah! Hopefully a small family dinner in prison. Miss Mollard claimed that the Duke's celebration being kiboshed, the attention will be shifted onto Princess Anne. She said, into the breach has stepped Princess Anne, who turns 70 next year. Good old Princess Anne. All the attention will be on her, which, of course, she will loathe. She's 70 in August, and now apparently all the preparations that were being put onto Andrew's birthday have now shifted onto Anne's birthday. So poor old Princess Anne, who probably would just like to go and ride her horse on her birthday. Now she has to have a jolly birthday that she probably doesn't want, just to keep the public and the Queen happy. I don't know about you folks, but I read those in my mind in an English accent, and I spare you from my terrible English accent. So you should thank me for that. But I read it in my mind. I'm reading it these silly articles of especially like this one we just read, and I read it in like the most high uppity English accent I can imagine. And it cracks me up, and I force myself not to laugh as I'm reading the articles sometimes. Oh boy. Look, Prince Andrew, we all know what he is. We all know exactly what he is. We all know what he's been accused of at this point. We all see where the evidence has led us with Prince Andrew. And there's really no denying what Virginia Roberts has said. He hasn't put out a plausible case in his defense. There's nothing he says that gives you pause to say, oh, you know what? Maybe he's not being credibly accused. Maybe this is all just a shakedown. When there's so many people involved, and so many people even on the outside fringes, from pilots to household cleaners and butlers and stuff like that, are coming out and saying Andrew was there. Look, when you're around all of this stuff, you cannot tell me that you do not know what is going on. I am sorry. You're staying the night at his house. You guys are having a sleepover like you're in high school. Hey, Mom, I'm going to borrow the plane, and I'm going to go stay over at Andy's house. We're going to hang out with a bunch of 16-year-old girls. Really? Ay. All right, if you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. And if you would like to support the show, you can do that by clicking on the GoFundMe link in the description. I'll be back tomorrow for a morning update We might do another flashback article tomorrow. I'm not too sure yet if we're going to do it every day or maybe just do it weekends. I haven't decided yet. We'll see how tomorrow goes. We'll definitely have our morning update though, and we'll have our daily drop. And you know what? Yeah, we're going to do a flashback article. There's so much to cover that I think that it's proper for us to do one. And I have like I said, I've picked out several already, so I have them all lined up and ready to go. So we'll do another one. We'll do another evolution of the Epstein Chronicles article tomorrow, and we'll just keep on chopping away. We will keep chopping away until the forest is cleared. I will talk to everybody tomorrow.